Hello everyone, I'm Noopur. And if you were to look me up online or scroll through my professional bio, you would see what you expect from a college admissions consultant. You will find a list of credentials, placement statistics, track records, and milestones. But today I want to take all of that off the table. I want to look past my resume because that only tells you what I have done. It does not tell you why I show up every day to guide students through a high stakes, high anxiety world of college admission. So, behind the spreadsheet, the data points, and the acceptance letters, there is always a human story. And for me, this work is deeply personal. For the longest time, I was a traditional educator. I spent years in the classroom designing curriculum, guiding teaching teams, and helping students build the academic skills they needed to succeed. I loved it. I loved every minute of my time in the class. I loved watching the light bulb switch on in a student's mind when a complex concept finally clicked. But a few years ago, things began to change. I began to notice a shift in the education landscape, a shift that was making me deeply uncomfortable. I saw the pressure on teenagers mounting to an unsustainable degree. The joy of learning was being replaced by hyper competition. Success became a single terrifying metric. Where do you get it? Which college are you going to go to? High school wasn't a place of self discovery anymore. It became a 4-year optimization strategy. And I watched vibrant teenagers trying to fit into a rigid mold. The advice they got was uniform: take these classes, join these clubs, check these boxes, complete so many hours of community service. And I watched young people set aside their genuine interest to match what they thought admissions committees wanted. It was disheartening. But the real turning point for me didn't happen in a classroom. Instead, it happened in my own house when it was time for my daughter to navigate the admissions process. That's when my world shifted. I wasn't just an educator looking at data, reviewing essays. I was a parent. I was a mom. I watched the overwhelming amount of information crash down on her. I saw conflicting advice from school, from friends, and social media, all made with good intent, but it was conflicting. And the sheer palpable anxiety this can inject into a household. Even with my educational background, I realized how complex and emotionally draining this system is. I felt the same pit in my stomach that so many of you have felt. It's the late night fear of making a wrong move. It's the desperate desire to protect your child's unique spirit balanced against the intense pressure to secure their future. The constant worry, am I doing enough? Am I doing right? And that was a wake-up call for me. It's then that I thought about my students. I realized something vital. Families don't just need strategists to help their children conform. They don't need another voice telling them how to blend in. They need someone to protect their child's individuality. I knew I couldn't fix the cookie cutter approach from within a traditional educational role. Recognizing this, I made a choice. I left that predictable path behind, stepped out, and decided to build something different. From that point on, when I began mentoring applicants independently, I committed to a single unshakable truth. No two students are the same. Every teenager who walks through my door is a distinct, beautifully complex ecosystem. They have unique interests, quirks, fears, and untapped potential. They are not data points and definitely not just a GPA. Frankly, discovering their individuality is where my experience serves them best. With 2 decades and hundreds of teenagers, you develop an intuitive sight. You can tell within minutes the difference between a student who's genuinely passionate about robotics and one who's just doing it because an adult told them it would look good on an application. You learn to hear the weight behind a student's silence. And most importantly, you begin to see the hidden talent often buried below deep insecurities. I remember working with a student a few years ago. On paper, he was brilliant, perfect grades, incredible test scores. But when he came to me, he was completely paralyzed by perfectionism. He was terrified because he thought he had to look exactly like every other top applicant. Each personal statement draft sounded like a marketing brochure, sterile, polished, and empty. He tried so hard to guess what admission officers wanted that he he erased his own voice. Because I have guided so many different types of students over the last 20 years, I knew that pushing him harder or giving him a stricter timeline won't work. He didn't need a taskmaster. He needed to be heard. He needed a safe space. And we spent weeks just sitting together, not talking about college. We focused on breaking down his anxiety. Finally, after peeling away those defensive layers, he opened up. He told me about a quirky, messy, unpolished project. It wasn't for a resume, for a club, or a class. He did it simply because he loved it. And that project became the soul of the application. He found his voice, wrote with authenticity, and got into a top university. But the real victory wasn't the acceptance letter. It was watching him realize his uniqueness, and that his uniqueness wasn't his liability, it was actually his superpower. Through 2 decades of such stories, I have developed a simple core framework that guides everything I do now. It consists of 3 pillars: see, believe, and build. First, we see. Truly look at the student for who they are, their specific strengths, their hobbies, their quirky traits, not just their GPA. Next, we believe. We give students confidence to trust that their unique story matters. They don't have to pretend to be someone else to find success. And finally, we build. We take that authentic foundation and construct an educational path and the application that honors their truth, not a manufactured story, a true story. The college admissions process does not have to be a system that breaks a teenager's spirit. It can be a transformative journey, a discovery where they discover exactly who they are. It's a process that helps a student navigate this major life milestone with strategy and clarity, and above all, without losing exactly who they are along the way.